Welcome back to Elevation Perspective. My name is Mark, and today we are talking about the New York Mets. I want to start things off by saying the Mets are a very talented team with several all-star caliber players, but I feel like they are fundamentally flawed. David Stearns is a brilliant baseball mind and has already done so much good in his short time in New York. But the biggest public knowledge gripe with Stearns is he does not pay for pitching, more specifically starting pitching, but it leaks into the bullpen as well. To be totally fair here, a lot of situations and a lot of contracts that are given out to these starting pitchers, we as the fans usually do a double take and say, wow, that's not going to age well. And the reality of the situation with the majority of starting pitchers who make big money, toward the back end of that contract, are either injured or not performing at a high level anymore. But I feel like even knowing that immense risk on these starting pitchers, you can't just rule yourselves out of every big time pitcher that hits the market. I also think there has to be a difference in, okay, I'm not going to give Corbin Burns $200 million, but also I'm not going to give a guy like Nick Pivetta $50 million. This is all easy to say in hindsight. Of course, Burns wound up blowing out his elbow, and he will most likely be a bad contract for the Diamondbacks throughout the duration of the deal. I just think there has to be situations and times where you do go all in, and you go in there and you say, okay, this is going to hurt us toward the back end, but if we sign this big arm now, we're a World Series favorite. We're a World Series contender. You have to have that winning mindset. I think the success of Sean Manaea and Luis Severino last season put David Stearns and the Mets front office in a type of ease that they thought, okay, we can just keep signing these reclamation projects, and with our pitching coaches and our advanced analytics and our pitching lab, we will fix them. And it's not a bad mindset, but you can't go into it thinking this is a surefire thing with 100% success rate. Also, going into 2024, the Mets were not in a great position to win. They had a decent group with some talent. They were in a position to probably maybe compete for a wild card spot. And they started the season off very poorly before going on that miraculous second half run before the season eventually ended to the Dodgers in the National League Championship Series. Going into 2025, the expectations for this team change. They went to the National League Championship Series last year. They signed Juan Soto to the mega deal. They brought back Pete Alonso. All of the kids are 1 year older. I just feel like the Mets front office did not take the pitching seriously enough. Let's look at what they actually did do this offseason to address the starting pitching. They signed Sean Manaea to a 3-year, $75 million deal. I don't totally blame them for this signing. It has not worked out well at all in the early goings of it, but even with the red flags, he was the ace of this staff last year. It looked like a legitimately different pitcher after the change he made in his delivery. The way they chose to supplement the rest of the rotation, though, they signed Clay Holmes, converted him from a reliever to a starter, and they signed Frankie Montas and Griffin Canning. Now, Clay Holmes has been overall pretty solid. I'm not sure the Mets could have asked or expected more than what he's done for this team. But I think the idea here, at least from the outside looking in, was at some point Clay's innings would add up and they'd move him from the rotation back into the bullpen. They are still yet to make that move with Clay Holmes, and he has kind of hit a wall lately. Griffin Canning did pitch well before his season-ending Achilles injury, and Frankie Montas has been an absolute disaster. It's kind of difficult because it's easy to say Stearns failed now after seeing the results, but I feel like a lot of what is happening now was pretty foreseeable. I said multiple times in the preseason, I think the Mets rotation is good enough to get them there, but not a group you want to lean on in October. Now, as we look ahead, the Mets are barely hanging on to that third and final wildcard spot with the Reds right behind them. The Mets recently called up Nolan McLean, a top pitching prospect who has looked tremendous through 2 starts, but now let's take a look here and think about their playoff rotation if they were to make it. You're looking at David Peterson and a whole lot of question marks. If it was up to me, I'd probably go Peterson, McLean, Manaea, and then Senga. I know it's so hard to say with McLean having such a small sample size. Of course, 6 weeks from now, he might not even be a playoff candidate with how he pitches, but he looks really good early on. I still have a lot of belief in Sean Manaea, even with the injuries and the kind of underperformance so far. I am mostly worried about Kodai Senga. He just has terrible control, and a 3-walk inning can just bury you in a playoff game. There's no one right way of winning, but I think when you're talking about a potential Mets playoff rotation, and you look around the big competition in the National League, the Dodgers have Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Snell. The Phillies, now without Zach Wheeler, still have Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, Ranger Suarez, Aaron Nola. The Mets just don't seem to match up with these big teams. I think it's going to be really interesting to see this offseason if Stearns could change course. Obviously, he has built a sustainable model over the years with his time in Milwaukee. He knows how to contend, but will he do what is necessary to push those chips in and win a championship? The 2 names I have circled on the impending free agent list are Dylan Cease and Framber Valdez. 2 very durable arms who are projectable top of the rotation type guys. They're going to cost a lot of money. We know Cohen hasn't, doesn't have a problem with spending it, but will Stearns make the push? You don't have to sign a big star to a massive contract every winter, but once in a while, it's necessary. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please hit subscribe and have a great day.